And when should you hire a handyman? That is what I'm going to talk about in this video. A lot of times when I talk to people who are investors and they say, here's when you should hire a handyman, or here's when you should hire a contractor, they look at the price. And this is one of the metrics we want to use. The first thing you want to do is look at your state and see how stupid your state is managed. One of the many reasons why I moved out of California and don't ever want to go back. I actually told my mom, if you want me to come to your funeral, you're going to have to come to Washington and die. And then Michael Zuber somehow tricked me to coming to California to be a presenter at his One Rental at a Time event on November 12th. So I'm not sure how that happened. But the threshold in California to be allowed to have a handyman do the work is $500 for labor and materials. So if you buy things for a job that your handy person uses and it costs more than $500, they're breaking the law. They actually set up sting operations in California to catch people pretending to be a contractor, which means they did work on your properties that was worth more than $500. In Washington state, it's $2,000. We're still stupid. We're just not as stupid. So it's a regulation that you need to know of that is on a local basis, what is happening in your state. But that's not what I look at when I look at should I hire a handyman or a contractor. An example is in Washington state, you can only have a $2,000 project performed by a handyman. So if I had, let's say, French doors to replace a sliding glass door situation, and the French doors cost $1,100 and the labor cost $800, they hit the $2,000 threshold, which means tomorrow that handy person is going to be putting in my fence. They're not going to do it at the same time because that would be over the $2,000 limit. So you have to understand your local laws and what makes sense. Here's what I look at when do I use a handyman or a contractor? First, price is a factor. And a lot of people will say, well, a contractor costs more because they have more overhead. They had to go through more barriers of licensing and they have to be bonded and insured, which a handyman can be bonded and insured too. But there's an economy of scale. If a contractor is really busy and you want them to come to your house to put in a sink, that's not plumbing. It doesn't go into the wall. It's connecting to the wall. It's things that screw on. So would you need a plumber to do that? Would you need an electrician to go and replace the cover for a light switch or the light switch itself? So you have to figure out what's required in your area. Most states require anything electric that you're not, so you can do it yourself if you live there, but if you don't live there, if it's a rental, electricity has to be worked on by an electrician, which can be done by a contractor as a sub. Your handyman can hire an electrician too. So just because somebody is a handyman or an electrician doesn't mean there's certain jobs that only go to each one. It depends on their background and what they're comfortable with and if they have subs working for them. So a general contractor can have a lot of subs working for them. Your handyman, if you are self-managing properties like me, I want to live in Thailand and have my properties man. And if I need to replace an electric panel, I can contact an electrician and have my handyman there to make sure, because the handyman's interacted with the tenants, can alleviate that with the tenants. They're not going to do the work on the electrician portion. They're not going to do the plumbing stuff. And then I have a rule of anything outside, nothing above 8 feet is going to be done by a handy person. And a lot of times, even a general contractor isn't going to do anything on the roof unless they have specific roofing insurance. So when you hire somebody to do something on the roof, you can actually go to your state's insurance website, like Labor and Industries for Washington, and look up what type of insurance your contractor provides. So some things aren't done just by a contractor. You need a specialized contractor, like in the electric panel for real plumbing or on the roof. And what some general contractors will do, or what some roofing companies will do, is get general contractors insurance. That doesn't cover somebody working on your roof. You actually want the more expensive, which is why roofing costs more, insurance that covers somebody actually going up on your roof. So when I'm looking at a handyman or a contractor, you can have a contractor give you a better price than your handyman sometimes if the contractor doesn't have any work and it's something that they're prepared to do. Whereas if in Washington we have that $2,000 threshold, if you're looking at having something done and your handyman doesn't have the tools to do it, doesn't have the specific tools that would be needed to do the project, it's going to cost more to have the handyman do it than the contractor, even on a small project. So just like when I'm going to have a big project done that does require a contractor, I'm going to get several estimates. So as you develop relationships with your your handyman and your contractors. Like I've got a roofing contractor that even though I've used him on the last 2 roofs and I'm going to continue to use them in the future, I still get other quotes. And when I have you have a handyman, a relationship with your handyman, and I say handyman, that doesn't mean men or women. I've had both men and women handymen working for me, or do jobs for me. There's a big difference between what they will do for you based on their schedules. What you'll generally find is a contractor, that's their business. It's generally 50 plus hours a week. The more busy they are, the more they're going to cost. Your handyman, sometimes it can be their business. This might actually literally be the thing they do full time. My 2 handymen both have full-time jobs, and what they do for me is on the side as a side hustle. Both of them have been contractors in the past. So this is one of the things I like to look at when you're hiring a handyman is, where does their experience come from? If they're just handy and they've done some things, yeah, you can use them for small projects, but I wouldn't have them putting in tile unless they've done tile work. I wouldn't want to be the project they're learning the skill on. But you can have them do that depending on where the cost threshold is for your state. A lot of times people say, don't use a handyman, use a contractor because of insurance. You can have just as much insurance on a handyman as you can have on a contractor. And while I saw a comment earlier from All Nighter Hider, I think, who is, I am a handyman and a contractor. They can be both. I actually have a brother who operates a tree service in California and literally advertises in the newspaper because he doesn't do the interwebs. And his advertisement says, unlicensed arborist. He gets a lot of work because people think he's going to be cheaper. Still has a license, still has insurance, just advertises that way to get people's attention. And he gets more work than he can do. He's turning work away, so he has to upbid sometimes to minimize the work to what he can actually handle. So that's the type of contractor. So for you, when you're looking at doing a handyman or a contractor, look at what your resources are. Do you have a handyman? Do you know a good one? How do you find them? So for me, I like to find my handyman with face-to-face live reviews. And I get those by joining local Facebook groups and going to local REI meetups to find people who've actually had work done by people who will say things like, when I refer one of my handymen to people, I will say things like, there's a reason this person does this as a side hustle because they're not really capable of making it every day to a job. So don't expect it to be done on your timeline. They're going to wake up when they wake up and they're going to show up when they show up. They do amazing work though. And then sometimes their price will be too high. But on the next 5 things they do for you, their price will be too low, and it balances out. And every time they give you a price, it's a conversation. You can actually negotiate the price and explain why you think it's too high or sometimes too low. I'll say that whole verbiage comes out when I say, here I'm going to refer this handyman to you. I want to get that information from other investors in my area, so I know what their experience has been with that handyman. With a contractor, I like to find my contractors on the Thumbtack app. I've had really good luck with this. Even the roofer that I go with that I've used twice, I'm going to use in the future, but I'm going to get quotes on every time I use them. I found on the Thumbtack app. The beauty to this on the contractor side is the contractors that are on Thumbtack are a little more tech savvy. They at least have the ability to get on an app. They know that the reason I'm talking to them is because of the reviews that I read. And when the project is done, I'm going to get to write a review. So I've had really good luck with the contractors working on a timely manner, actually completing jobs or responding to me when I say, why is the job taking too long? And I don't just get the brush off because I know there's going to be a review at the end. So to wrap this up really quick before I get to the howdies and to all the questions, this is a live stream that I do every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific, and my goal is to answer every question that comes in. And the question of should I use a handyman or a contractor comes up often, so I thought I'd give you this to show you that in 10 minutes, there is no clear answer. It comes down to the job that you're doing, the background of the people that you're working with. There are some contractors I won't work with again because I've used them in the past. Know your local laws on what you are allowed to do, especially if you're in a state where they run sting operations. So imagine being a person who works as a handyman in California, and you know that there are cops trying to get you to come to a job site and charge more than $500 for a job, including materials, so they can arrest you. Can't imagine wanting to live in that state. And I understand there's a reason that you want people to be licensed and have to pass tests to perform certain activities at a rental. If you're going to have something like an electrical problem that can burn the place down, yes, you want a pro to do it. But there's a lot of things that a handyman can do, like repair a fence. And the amount of materials that it takes to repair that fence are probably going to be more than $500, let alone the work. And so limiting that is just a bizarre thing to me. Know your local laws, know your resources, know the background of the handyman that you're working with, know how to find them. And for me, it's important to always have more than one. So like I said, my two handymen, they have full-time jobs and they work for me as a side hustle, which means there might be a time when I'm on a trip or out of the country and they need to take care of something, but they're working. So then I go to the other one. Might not hurt to have a few more options after that. And here's the one last thing on handyman and contractors. The way I like to think of the money that they make. With a contractor, it's really hard sometimes to get them to finish on time, to actually do what they signed the contract saying that they were going to do. So what I like to do is structure the pay. I say, if this is a $4,000 job, there's a 15% bonus involved if you finish by this day. There's a 5% bonus involved if you finish by this day. And there's no bonus and a negative review if you don't finish by this day. For my handyman, I don't so much negotiate the price with there's a bonus if you get it done on time. These are usually projects that can be handled that aren't emergencies. What I like to do is not complain when they overcharge, because I know it's going to balance out on the things that are undercharged. And every now and then there will be a week like this week. This is an actual real life example. I had a couple tenants reach out. There's one that has a light in the kitchen that is no longer working, even after replacing the bulbs. I had another tenant reach out that says the rain gutters are leaking in the not right area. I had another tenant reach out. There was like 4 things. Transition strips and from one room to another were coming up. And these are all little things, transition strips. I can go and it would take probably 10 or 15 minutes for me to fix that. The light, I could take it out, put in an LED light. It would probably take me an hour to do that with, shutting it down, making sure that the paint around the light still matched and didn't need touched up at the end. The gutters, I can get on a ladder and figure out where it needs reattached. And these are all simple things that I could easily do myself, spend a day, especially being retired. I've worked since July of this year. Financial freedom through buy and hold rentals. If that sounds like something you'd like to do, hit subscribe. But I didn't do any of those things. And it isn't because I'm lazy. Like that's 99%. There's 1% that is, I want my handyman to make money on easy jobs so that they don't feel like I'm only calling them when it's, hey, I need you to come and crawl under my house and reattach some vent because I'm not going down there. There's spiders and rats in there, but I'll pay you to go in there. Don't hire somebody just for the sucky jobs. I'm going to have them come out, spend that hour on that light, probably less because they do it all the time, probably less than an hour on the transition strips, probably an hour on the gutters, and then pay them a full day's wage. Happy to do it on their schedule when it makes sense to them. Because the next time I call, it's probably going to be Saturday, maybe a holiday, 11 o'clock at night, and I have a septic backup. And all I need is them to do is go out, open up the septic system and break the clog, or at least check that that's probably what it is, because 95% of the time that's what it is. And I explain this to them. I say, look, these are easy jobs I could have done on my own. I totally would have done this. I literally played World of Warcraft all day. But I'm giving you the chance to take these jobs if you want them. If you don't, if you're busy, I can go do it. But I let them know, I want you to make money on these easy jobs because I need you to be reliable and available when I have something difficult or not timely when I call you with an emergency that you'll go to. And so far, both of them have been totally fine with that, and I think they appreciate it. So let me go up here and say hello to everybody. Hopefully that made sense in as unclear a fashion as I can make it, that there isn't a clear answer on when you're going to use a handyman or a contractor, but there are some things you can do, like, is it in the electric panel? Does it involve plumbing? Is it on the roof? Yes, that's going to go to a licensed bonded professional specific to that type of industry. And then you need to know the price threshold for your county, state, probably. Dividend Dave, howdy. Brock, Howdy, good evening. Question, I've heard you mention that you'd like your units to have at least two bedrooms each. Can you explain your reasoning? Sure. And I appreciate you being a member, Brock. Member live streams are going to be on Fridays, and the one that happened last week and the one I'm going to do this week and probably the next week is I'm actually just going to open up the emails, like share my screen, open the emails and talk out loud, stream of consciousness, each deal that my agents are sending to me that I'm looking at, the way that I look at them, what I'm instantly dismissing, why I have my criteria set much more loosely than what I dismiss, because I want to dismiss deals, not have my agents dismiss things that I might have wanted. So that's what I'm going to be doing every Friday for now. And I will be sharing the Zoom link so people can actually just jump on Zoom too, and we can interact more one-on-one that way. But if I was investing in a retirement area, Ocean Shores, Washington, not Tacoma, Washington, or I was investing in a town that was primarily college-based, in around Bellingham, Washington, or something like that. And in your areas where there's more colleges or more retirement likelihood, more likelihood of there being retirement communities, single bedrooms would probably be just fine. But I'm trying to limit tenant turnover. My goal is to have as small of tenant turnover as possible. So I do things like I want side-by-side small multifamily instead of over-under, so I have less noise complaints. I want garages in 2 bedrooms because more space equals more stuff, so less likely to move. 1 bedroom generally means no kids, which is good as a landlord, but it generally means they're going to move a lot. If it's a single person, they could get into a relationship. If it's a couple, they're going to have a kid and need a bigger space. If I was in a place like a college where I was planning on cycling through college students renting rooms one at a time, or a retired couple that's going to stay there long term, then 1 bedroom would be more attractive. And based on yield, I would look at 1 bedroom. You said it right here. I prefer, that's my preference. It's like a wish list. These are like the 10 things I want. I probably want at least 7 or 8 of those things, and some of those is at least 2 bedrooms and a garage. Is there any other reason why 2 bedrooms or more? So it's more space equals more stuff. With COVID, this actually is a new thing to add in the last couple of 2 years. More work from home and more homeschooling options. So people wanted more space. Rentals became more desirable. Section 8 pays by the bedroom. They pay more per unit. And for 1 or 2 bedrooms, the threshold is usually pretty low. Not threshold, the amount that they'll pay is usually pretty low. As soon as you start breaking into 3rd or 4th bedroom, that amount actually goes up significantly. Like from 1 to 2 bedrooms, it's a $100 to $150 difference. From 2 to 3, it's a $400. And then the 4 and 5 bedroom units, this I learned from Joe Asamoah from BiggerPockets, who invests in Section 8 housing around Washington, D.C., where he gets over $5,000 a month for Section 8 because they pay by the bedroom. So there's a few reasons there. JT, howdy. And I see that we had a super chat. Dividend Dave. My tenant paid for this, but I'm deducting it. Nice, thank you. Appreciate that. Enjoy having that first tenant and you're in your first house hack. And Michelle, hey, howdy. Thank you for joining the membership. I appreciate it. JT, howdy. All-nighter hider. Bonjour. I'll be here until my regularly scheduled legal meeting starts. We'll leave this in the background for the algo. I appreciate that. Don't forget to stimulate that like button and encourage Dion to roll the die for a free property giveaway. Oh, that's a good idea. I should totally do that. I think it's going to take a little bit more of the hard water. To get me to give away a property, though. I should do a giveaway of an Audible book, though. Definitely. Michelle asks if all-nighter is in the Tacoma area, looking for a contractor handyman in that area. So I put my email in the chat just below that when it came out, Michelle. Email me and I will connect you with my 2 handyman, maybe a 3rd. I think he's working full-time again, though. All-nighter is not in Tacoma. You're in San Diego. I'm very sorry. I have friends up there. I can ask. If I find someone, I'll let Dion know. Thank you. Awesome. You can add to his plate, of course. So that's the one thing I like to do, except for one vendor. So a lot of people always ask, do you give presents to your agent or your lender or your tenants or whatever? And what I like to do is give people referrals. Agents, if they're good, I'll refer people to them. My lenders, if they're good, I'll refer people to them. Handyman, if they're good, I'll refer people to them. I will give the warnings of they're not going to be consistent. There's a reason this is a side hustle, and all of the other things I said. My CPA is the one vendor who said, I don't want any referrals. I have too much business. It's a weird business model that doesn't want to grow. And for my tenants, I give referrals. I say, with the biter strategy, here's what you would pay for rent. Here's what you are paying for rent. Let's help you buy a place. Did you know why I bought this duplex that you're paying rent for? So that I don't have to work. You don't have to work either. And I try to talk, and have any of them, one bought a house this year, one inherited a house, that doesn't count. But the others haven't had any others. One said they would like to buy a house, but that's really not enough because they haven't asked for any connections or anything. All nighter, you think they're on Bainbridge Island across the river from Seattle. Yep. Everything's connected here by ferries. Just a little river, just a little on the other side of the river. Michelle, that is far from Tacoma, kind of. Yeah, that is. Lauren, howdy. Thank you for being a member. I appreciate it. Hi from Tacoma. I am on the clock tonight, and we'll hang out as long as I am able. Awesome. Hopefully you have a very boring shift at work. Working in the medical field. All-nighter hider. Hi, Lauren. Are you able to answer Michelle's question? I took care of it. Lauren also says she's having trouble finding a handyman, but you're working with a new one to do small projects. What I like to do, you don't have to do this, Lauren, but what I did in the beginning when I was working with my handyman is I actually kind of worked next to them a little bit. One, I wanted to learn. I had never worked on decks before. I wanted to learn how some of the structure worked under there that you can't see, and what, really what the rules are on wood not touching ground and that kind of stuff. But it gives you an idea of the scope of some jobs so that you can have a better estimate of what they should cost, at least a better position when you're talking to a handyman about that. Best way to find out if contractor quotes is good is to get it in writing and share that with other contractors you're getting quotes from. Let them all see what each other is offering, because nobody will point out a competitor's flaw as fast as the person who's going to be able to keep the business if they can point it out and have a justifiable reason. All-nighter hider, you are both a handyman and a contractor. Yep. I lost my spot. Here we go, Lauren. All-nighter hider. Okay, thank you. Now we're getting somewhere. I love this community. I love this community too. Howdy, Tiffany. Howdy, Levi. Article 1, Section 10 of the U.S. Constitution proclaims private contracts supersede statutory law. Just got to know the laws and when to object. Very true. Tom, howdy. Handymen are a different breed. I totally agree. There are some really good handymen that do some great work. My experience with the ones that I work with who sometimes watch my channel is you are inconsistent. It is why you change jobs often. But you do great handyman work, and I'm happy to employ you. And every now and then, I think you should go back to being a contractor because you handled subs really well. Tom, I'm glad you're here too. FYI, Real Estate by the Numbers by Jay Scott and David Meyer is great and eye-opening. Awesome. I really thought so too. I really liked the idea that most of us have. Tell me about the numbers. How does the math work? Is this a good deal or is this a bad deal? And none of that makes sense until you know the goal. The numbers on a buy and hold rental and the numbers on a flip look very different when you're looking at them and can be very good or very bad. And if you don't know what you're trying to do with it, Real Estate by the Numbers doesn't make sense. All-nighter hider. No state shall pass any law impairing the obligation of contracts. Article 1, Section 10, Paragraph 1, use wisely. Good luck with that. In California, I totally recommend, especially for anyone with at least 3 to 4 units. I recommend it too. That's why I've given away 2 of them now. Back to driving now while you listen. Yes, don't text and drive. Michelle, I've been asking for phone numbers at Home Depot and Lowe's. There you go. Maybe. I'd have to think on if that was what I would do or not. I mean, I'd probably do enough jobs to know if they get good responses or not. Sebastian, hola, ¿cómo está? Adrian and Sebastian, thank you for being a member. I appreciate that. I think that image says you've been a member for a while now. Adrian, is it okay to have 5 properties in your personal name and have an umbrella policy? A beautiful way to ask that question. Thank you. Welcome to my channel. I appreciate you coming. So really quick Cliff Notes version, like less than 20 seconds. 12 years ago, single parent, $89,000 in bad debt in my name I didn't know about until the divorce, raising 3 kids, making $17 an hour. Reached financial freedom with buy and hold real estate and retired July of this year. So what was that, 3-4 months now? Trying to share with people how I did it, why I did it, that you can do it too, that I had no special secret sauce. All my deals are from the MLS, all traditional lending. And one of the things that really bothers me a lot is this LLC question. It comes up all the time. It still comes up. So literally I have a copy and paste answer that I put into Facebook groups and on BiggerPockets. If somebody's been investing for a long time and they have several rentals and they have a lot of cash flow and they put all their things into LLCs to protect themselves, which it doesn't, great, who cares? My concern is the brand new investor. So if you have 5, you're not a brand new investor. You're killing it. That's, 1 is more than like 80% of the population in the United States ever does. It's more than 90% of real estate agents ever do. 90% of realtors never own an investment property. That person that's just starting out, that's who I'm concerned for with LLCs. I actually have a video on my channel called LLC Rant. And it's, I was going to wait until I had 10,000 subscribers to do it. I did a little bit early because I figured I'd lose a bunch of people. And I got a bunch of attorneys mad at me. Because imagine that, attorneys and CPAs who make money by setting up, maintaining, and filing taxes for each LLC want you to have an LLC. For tax benefits, which there are none, the IRS actually calls them a disregarded entity. They don't exist to the IRS. And second, there's no asset protection with an LLC unless you have partners. That's the idea. It's a limited liability company to limit you from other people's mistakes. When you are sued, and all of your assets are yours. Each LLC is your asset. And originally, a lot of states were having places pierce the veil. If you didn't do your paperwork just right, if you didn't keep your finances separate, because that new investor, how do you pay yourself? How do you keep your finances separate? How do you get funding on an LLC that was just created? Like all these barriers they put in front of themselves when they're brand new and there's enough to learn. You don't need any of that LLC stuff. Until later, when there are times where it makes sense. If you have partners, you need an LLC to protect you from their mistakes. If you want to use hard money, most hard money lenders will require an LLC for the loan to go through. So there are times it makes sense to have an LLC. It's not for tax benefits and it's not for asset protection, because the 2 counties that I invest in now, they do not pierce the veil. They disregard. They are using the IRS 1996 decision that LLCs for a sole member do not divide assets. So lawsuits in these 2 counties disregard the LLCs. So there's absolutely no asset protection. In some places, that's a little more protective. But if any attorney went through the process to pass the bar and become an attorney, it's not going to be very hard to make your assets your assets. So my 3 forms of asset protection, well, I guess there's 4, because if you have partners, use an LLC. But my first form of asset protection is insurance. I agree, an umbrella, but what I do is insurance on each property, $300,000 injury or slip fall, right? Cover for that. And then full replacement value. Don't just do insurance that covers the cost of the mortgage, do the cost of full replacement, because you want to be made whole, not just the lender if there's a complete burn down. I do insurance with the highest deductible because I'm never going to make a claim unless it's a really big problem. So I do $5,000 or $10,000 deductible, depending on what was available when I got the policy or what they will let me renew to. And second, I should have done this, I think, at 3 properties, but I waited till 4. At my 4th property, I added an umbrella policy. So the idea is I have a $2 million coverage that was $550 a year. Now it's like $680 because inflation. I used inflation to get rich. Ask me how. If an incident goes above the $300,000, then the umbrella policy is triggered. One of the things that is required with umbrella policy also, though, is that if you have to generally have car insurance, property insurance, through the same insurance company that you're getting the umbrella. That's the requirement with a couple that I got quotes from. Not all, but a couple, right? They required a higher coverage on auto than the state minimum was. So a lot of times people will just get the state minimum insurance And if you have an umbrella policy, they wanted that raised too. So it was like another $4 a year to adjust the automobile to where they wanted it. So it wasn't like it was a lot, but ask what they require. And sometimes they'll say, we can't because of your policy. Make sure you ask why, and then you can make a change to your policy to make it happen. So that's the first, is insurance. The second is leverage. I have 7 properties with 16 rental units. So I'm not a big, huge, I'm not the lumberjack landlord with 135 units or Michael Zuber with 190 units or whatever they've got. It's not my goal. I'm not even sure I want 16. There might come a time when I sell 1 or 2, pay off some debt, and just increase the cash flow, because my goal was financial freedom. So I never had to work again in my life in a stable fashion. I invested in such a way to plan for a government shutdown, pandemic, or stock market crash, and not have to go back to work with the least amount of units possible. So 6 of my 7 properties have a mortgage on them. And then my third form of asset protection, which I think is the most important one, because this is what you can articulate in court. Fix things. Be proactive. The video topic today is, you want a handyman or a contractor? Make sure you're doing walkthroughs, and anything that's safety sensitive gets fixed as quick as possible. Anytime a tenant makes a statement or a claim, get it fixed as quick as possible, so that you can say things like, here's when I found out about the issue. This is the timeline on when I got it fixed, so that you can have the, it was reasonable for me to do it in this amount of time, and find out what some state regulations are. I think in some states, you have 30 days to handle some emergency issues. Some might even be faster than that, or shorter period than that. So that was a great question, Adrian. I appreciate it. I do recommend an umbrella policy and insurance on your properties. And if you have 5 properties, or if you have 10 or 15 or 20, and you feel like you just need insurance and LLCs and series LLCs, go for it. That's not who I'm talking to when I say I don't like LLCs. When I say I don't like LLCs, it's that person that doesn't even have a rental yet. That's like, what do I name it? How do I make it? How do I get credit for it? How do I pay myself? Like, all these barriers to getting into this, when all you really need to do, buy a rental, have a tenant pay you rent, then later worry about all that kind of stuff. Paula, howdy. Lauren, I'm finding the handyman reluctant to give in-person estimates. Some are charging over $80 for an in-person estimate. They will deduct that from cost of project, but you have to hire them. I have not experienced that. I think it might, oh, it's interesting. I haven't referred my handyman to you, so let me know if they do that. They don't do it with me because I've built a relationship with them. I know that so my family does trees. They are arborists. They residential tree service, small logging, that kind of stuff. My 2 brothers and my dad. I was the lazy one in the family because I joined the Marines, because that was easier than doing tree work. And they would always do free estimates. I have had, since I don't work in trees, estimates from tree companies to come out and do things on my properties, because the one brother that was running a company here in the state where my properties are retired and closed his business down. So I would use family, but I'm using a vendor just like everybody else. There were some that said it would cost for an estimate, and I just never talked to them again, because the hungrier the contractor is, the more likely they are to come and do estimates. And knowing that you're getting more than one estimate, you're going to get the one with the best price. If they want to charge for the estimate, it might mean that they're not confident in their ability to land the deal competitively against other estimates. So I would definitely shop around for that one. Financial firefighter. Aloha. How are you? Howdy from Hawaii. I liked your video, and you should, my email's in the chat up higher. You should email me so I could put a link to your channel in the chat, and tell people to come check out your channel as you start to grow it. A Hawaiian investor, like, are you investing in Hawaii? Are you investing at a distance? You're doing this on what it's called blue collar salary because you're a firefighter. Like, Army phaser, howdy. Only 10 minutes late. Hopefully you listened to me on my double speed. Levi, do you put anything in your lease about the tenant and the handyman contractor interaction? Is there anything in the lease? Not really. There's one thing that kind of touches on handyman or contractor, and it's this state has a 48-hour notice to come in. It's in there that I don't have the verbiage memorized, but it's something like, in an emergency situation for like a leak or something, that we can have access at tenant's request sooner than 48 hours. But to do maintenance or repairs, myself, handyman, or contractors can have access to the property if 48 hours of proper notice is given, and then proper notice is defined in there. And I'm not sure how legal this is. This is how I word it, because you have a good relationship with your tenants. These things usually don't become a problem. Try to put as many things in writing as you can, because it's easy to do things when everything's getting along, when everybody's getting along, but you can't add things to a lease when nobody's getting along. So that's probably the only thing about that. It's not so much how they interact, because that I just have kind of like a Dion talk, and I say, hey, this is the issue you've pointed out. Here's a group text. I'm going to start a group text with my handyman. This is their name. We're going to talk a little bit in this group text. And then once they have an interaction, I ask the tenant later, how was it? Were they professional? I asked the handyman, how was the tenant? Were they condescending? Were they rude? Were they anything? And you try to get each other's opinion, so I know if there's any barriers, because people sometimes just have personality clashes. And if there isn't, then I will send in that group text. I'll say, hey, there's a threshold the handyman knows, and the handyman knows it's up to $500. I don't say that amount to the tenant. I said of work that they can just do, and then let me know after. So that way, if I'm not able to be gotten a hold of, they can have something fixed by the handyman. That's about it. It doesn't talk about you have to text, you have to email. I just have it in there. The only reason I wanted it in the lease was to know that they can have access to fix something at the 48-hour mark. In Washington, that's the requirement, is you give 48 hours, even if I'm not present. Dividend Dave, howdy, Mark. Levi. Such as if you set an appointment for the tenant and handyman are supposed to meet, but the tenant isn't there. So that I don't have in the lease. That covers, they have access even if I'm not there in the 48 hours. It's a good concern though, is, some tenants would say, well, I don't want somebody in there, when your handyman has license, can be bonded and insured too, all the same stuff. Sebastian, howdy. Thank you for being a member. I appreciate it. Which renovations improvements have the biggest ROI in terms of home appreciation? I don't know that I'm the best one to ask for that. I would say best renovations for rent, like increase in rent. But for home appreciation, if you can add livable square footage permitted legally through the city, that's probably going to be the best way to add value. Your property is based on comp. So what do similar price properties in the area sell for? That's 4 units or less. If you're talking 5 units or more, now you're talking about, if you can increase your net operating income by increasing rents or decreasing expenses, you have a multiplier that increases the value of the property without looking at comps. That's a totally different animal than what I invest in. The reason I say I'm probably not the best one to ask about increasing appreciation is I've never sold a property. I'm hoping that my properties are better than my marriages, and it's actually until death do we part twice. But I know that a lot of times when people go to sell a property, because I'm trying to buy them, they'll say, it's a 3-bedroom, 1 bath. The county has it as a 2-bedroom, 1 bath with a den. And then I look deeper and I'm like, oh, it's because the septic system only covers 2 bedrooms, which means the appraisal is going to be based on 2 bedrooms and a den. Even if that 3rd bedroom has a closet, is more than the square footage required, has 2 forms of egress, has a source of heat and a source of power, and like literally qualifies as a bedroom. If the septic can't handle it and it's not permitted, that's not living space. I don't think appreciation is impacted by different types of countertops. I don't think it's impacted by better landscaping. I mean, you might have more yard appeal, which might increase demand a little. It's not going to affect appraisal as much because it's going to be based on comps. Make sure I'm not missing anything here. Adding a bathroom, while it might not add living space, you can increase value by having more bathroom, make sure it's permitted and done legally. Same thing with adding a washer dryer hookup, that can increase value. What things are going to be compared to the comps? Like you can add a $20,000 garage, which may add more value if in that area garages demand a higher premium. If you're in an area where they don't, then it might not be worth ROI on that. But I'm more in line with what increases the rent on a property than increases the value as for sale. I think Lumberjack Landlord or maybe Michael Zuber would be the right ones to ask on how to, what renovations create the best appreciation. And then I see that Tiffany, you joined the membership. I appreciate that. I will see you in the members only live streams, which I'm going to be doing on Fridays. And I might every now and then just do one. Please don't feel bad if you weren't able to be there live for it. It's just because I want you to see that I had a moment. I had a good connection wherever I was at, and I was going to go through and look at my emails. I just want that kind of documented for members. Like literally when I opened up the email, this is what I thought. This is what I saw from the pictures. This is what I'm looking through. This is my criteria that I eliminated it with. That's going to be the main thing. But on the members only, I'll also be doing some other things after I go through a couple of weeks of doing that. And then Tom, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. Want to partner with you. I'm trying to think, what would it take for me to partner with somebody? I don't know that I would. So Zuber just partnered with somebody on his last deal, and I'm going to have him do a video with me on this channel breaking down. Let me clarify really quick. He talks about getting a 32% ROI on his money. And I've had somebody reach out to me and said, how can an investor like me, who can't even find a 5 to 10% return on my money, invest and find freedom if somebody like Zuber is getting a 32% return? It's a very creative deal where I think he's using his money for the hard money. And then because of the partnership, the other person brought the deal. Like there's a couple steps going on there that gets him that 32. That's a lot more than finding a deal on the MLS, making an offer, paying a down payment, and then getting that kind of return. So I'm going to have him break it down like in a lot more detail. Check your return on equity, doing that, selling off the house, getting more cash flow. Exactly. Somebody asked me that at the end of a live stream the other day. I talked about my cash on cash return is amazing. Every single one of my properties now, because time in the market beats timing the market, is over 20%. Like my worst one is like 21% cash on cash return. There were 10 to my highest was 17% the first year. 10 was my lowest, like it was either 9.9 or 10.1. It was like right in there. So that's my kind of first year average. But after 3 or 4 years, they're all above 20% because rents go up, mortgages stay the same, your ROI becomes better, right? But my return on equity on my paid off property is not good. So it's worth like, I think if I sold it, I'd walk away with a little less than 400. And it's probably getting like a 5 to 6% return on equity instead of now it's getting like a 20% cash on cash return because I only have like 121,000 into that total deal. Over all the years paying off the mortgage and everything. So you're right. I would make more money if I sold the property and found a deal that made a 10% or better cash on cash return using the equity from that property in the next purchase. But Matt, the Lumberjack Landlord, who I saw snuck in a super chat down here, I want to get to that in just a second. Thank you, Matt. I appreciate that. Pointed out that a dialed in tenant is a gold mine. And this is a Section 8 tenant who now it is November, it's the first, right? This year I'm tracking. I've had 2 texts from her this year. And one was a question that had nothing to do with real estate. The other was asking me if I saw the letter from the housing authorities talking about the change to the rent that they're suggesting. I didn't even have to bind her then this year. 2 text messages for $2,200 a month in income on a paid off property. I could make more if I sold it. But remember, I don't know that I even want 16 units. I might want less with more cash flow. Bedrooms, bathroom, washer and dryer, then kitchens updated for top 4. Now give this man a thumbs up. Thank you. I appreciate that. So so bedrooms, bathrooms, so good. I hadn't really ever thought of that question before. So bedrooms, bathrooms, washer, dryer, then kitchens updated. So yes, updating kitchens. Okay, so if that affects property value, and in Matt's market, that really affects rents too. In my market, it affects it a little, but not as a good ROI. An example is a friend of mine who has a duplex who did not update one side, updated the other for like $28,000, and the rents are a little bit different, not a lot. Jimena, hola mija, ¿cómo está? Hello, Dion. I totally agree with hiring your handyman to do easy jobs so they feel appreciated. Absolutely. Yeah. It's the one thing I think I really take away from working in trees growing up, is the appreciating your contractors. And like when we think about somebody who's worked on a heating vent in the crawl space of your house, do you want to crawl in the crawl space of your house? Like your own house even? And they come and they do it for money. Invite them in, have drinks. They're people. Treat them better than you'd expect. Oh man, I saw something on Facebook the other day where some guy was going off on yard workers, and I was like, oh, I wish I was there for that. Lauren, had to step away for a moment. What time are the Friday members only Zooms? Should be at 4 p.m. I'm trying to keep that kind of same time of day, 4 p.m. Hopefully that works for people. I had like 3 people suggest Friday over Saturday, and then 2 or 3 people asked for later in the day. And I'm trying not to book anything before noon because the point of retiring early is not having a schedule. So, and you can't drink all day unless you start early, just saying. Yuri, howdy. How's it going, my Oregon friend? I meant to ask you, is your job done on the island up here? Sure, 3 rent increases today. It's been a good day. Nice. You'll have to let me know how those go. Email me. Let me know how they went. Cody, howdy. Shall drink up. It's the water for the voice. Exactly. Wouldn't be a night without Dion. Tuesday night. Wouldn't be a Tuesday night. Exactly. Thank you. I won't share your news. I will let you do that. But Matt has some exciting news to share with people. Monica, what about giving away a full day with you? That would be the best Christmas gift. Oh, my friends and family would so disagree. A day away from me, they would appreciate it. That's what I should give away. Oh, that's a good reminder. I will use the dice tonight at some point. Remind me before I log off because my memory has some issues. I always forget if I've told people that. That's the thing that sucks about a memory problem. I want to give away a 30-minute to 1 hour, depending on how much time is needed by the person, phone call. Only if you want the phone call and would benefit from it. So if you just want to say, hang out and chat, let's send me an email. But if you are investing and you want somebody like me who reached financial freedom in less than 10 years, a lazy way, the simple way, not easy, but simple, repeatable, to look at your situation, to say with your number of units or units or your none or your whatever, here's what I would do in your situation. So not financial advice, not a coach, not charging or anything like that. But what would I do? I will say something, get a comment, and then I'll roll the dice for the comments that come. But make sure you only say a comment at that point. I'll do it at a point, and there'll be everything after that for a second. If you think you would enjoy a 30-minute to 1 hour phone call with me to help you with finances. That's a great idea, Monica. I love that. Jason, howdy. From Missoula, Montana. In my market, I'm finding house hacks don't cash flow if I were to not live there. Is it okay to get the best alligator and live there until it starts cash flowing? So house hacks that don't cash flow. Interesting. So that exists where I'm at too. There's a ton of duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes that would lose money if you bought them at the listed price or even with the discount. So I think that there are some people who are buying to store cash, buying to use 1031 exchange. So they're not looking at the amount of money invested. They're looking at the amount of money in the original investment. There's like a lot of reasons why people will purchase a property that we would consider an alligator. It's going to lose money. If you're investing to to have a gain and grow a rental portfolio, I would not invest in an alligator no matter what. At some point, I would say invest in stocks, right? Like that's how bad I would look at an alligator. I don't own any stocks. I don't invest in stocks. I would have to learn a whole new thing. So Jason, what type of house hacks are you looking at? Have you looked at houses with ADUs? Are you looking at small multifamily? Are you looking at a house that's divided into different areas? Are you looking at midterm rentals where you rent to traveling nurses or to corporate or to insurance? Or are you looking at short-term rentals? Like what are the different house hack versions that you're looking at? And the most important question that I really want to clarify, how are you finding deals and how are you thinking that there's no deals that would cash flow? Because if the answer is Redfin or Zillow, you are not finding any deals. All of the information that I've found on Redfin and Zillow, at least in my area, is so dated that when I see the deals that I've closed on, like they're mine, 2 months later, I'm talking the binder strategy with the tenants, then I see them show up on Redfin or Zillow as pending. Like that's how old the information is. It's not like 5 hours old. It's a couple months old. And if you're searching on the MLS, I should make a video on this. How to find, that was a way I need to write it down the next time I think of it. The wrong ways to find deals. Redfin, Zillow, that's not right. Having one agent with an auto search, becoming an agent to search the MLS, because searching on the MLS is nuanced. My agents, my at least 3 that I use, more than that usually, with auto searches set up, have only one time ever sent me the same deal within 24 hours. So how are you searching? It should be MLS search. It should be more than one agent with auto searches that are all aware of each other. It could be driving for dollars. It could be contacting units that are for rent, saying that you're looking to buy. There's like all kinds of creative ways to find. So I'd want to know, what asset type are you looking for that you're calling a house hack that wouldn't cash flow? Because there are places where they wouldn't. Weirdly, the more expensive the area, the less likely that is to happen. The more expensive the area, the more important house hacking becomes. So I don't know that I would look at an alligator no matter what, because what if it gets worse? We've never seen rents go down, but they do go flat sometimes, right? So let's say market-wide rents went flat and appreciation kept happening, not appreciation, inflation kept happening. You would not be in a good situation. Miss Independent, howdy. How is Hemlane going? I'm currently looking for user-friendly software for my first rental. Have looked into Avail and Inigo so far. So there was a barrier to entry with Hemlane where I was using Cozy, which then became Apartments, which was very similar. And I thought, okay, I can handle this change. And then I went to Hemlane, and there's this little period of I didn't understand the platform well enough for me to do it. It was like about a week. And I would have said, I'm not sure. But after having 2 months and getting some tenants onto getting rent collected on Hemlane, and knowing that there's a tier up option that I can do to become less hands-on and actually have leasing agents go out and handle it. And the 2 times I've had questions, the customer service was really quick. I'm sticking with Hemlane. And I'm probably going to be moving more of my properties to it. I don't know that I will go. There's a couple of tenants. And so you got to know your tenants. I've got one who has a flip phone. She doesn't have a computer. She uses the post office and goes into the bank. She writes me 12 checks and post dates them, which in my state is probably not legal. I've heard people say that's not legal, but she gives me a stack. It's what she wants. I try to make life easy for her. So I don't think I'm going to be going to her and saying, hey, there's this online portal you need to pay your rent on in the future, right? But other tenants that are a little easier to shift are going to be doing that. And new tenants going forward, they will be from the platform. I found them there. And then this is me from day one in the lease. Here's how you pay your rents. Several benefits to that. It's got the free version you can pay to get it quicker, which I wouldn't do. So if you want it, you use my name for a 20% discount off your first year, just Dion, D-I-O-N. Somebody was they sent me an email saying, hey, I'm not getting a code. It says it doesn't exist. And it was D-E-O-N. I was like, what's the name of my channel? But Matt, the Lumberjack landlord, uses a different program. You might want to ask him and compare and see, because I think there was, me and Matt were talking about this like this morning or yesterday or something. If you have a very large portfolio with a lot of units, it's possible that the tax format, the way you get the information from the platform he's on, please put it in the chat, Matt, if you're still there, might work better. And it's not that it's better or worse. It's that I only have 7 properties with 16 rental units, kind of a smaller portfolio, right? And I can do everything in an Excel spreadsheet. So I don't know if Hemlane's is as good as his or not. I just know that he's happy with his. And I don't have a test to know if mine's as good as his. Or Hemlane, mine, his, whatever. The ones we're using. I second Monica's giving away a full day with you. Suggestion: learn by actual seeing you on the job. That's why an hour phone call is going to come in so much better. Because if I could grab the camera, I'd give everybody motion sickness and show you the other side of the room. This is a gaming room. That's my work. I have a VR headsets to get cardio. I have multiple computer setups. That's my work. I'm gaming or walking out here and resting on the waterfront, goofing off. That's my work day. No, I did have to text the handyman some this morning to say, hey, look, these are the jobs. Did you want them? I can go do them myself, or you can do them. And they're doing them because they need the money. I'm totally happy that that's happening. So I don't know that watching me a day in the life of my work would help anybody, other than if you're super lazy and you really value time freedom. I think watching a day now would be really motivating. But an hour call, 30 minutes to an hour, depending on how much you need the person, I think is a great idea. Lumberjack. To get a day's work with Dion, it would take 4 months. You're brilliant. Matt knows me. It would take 4 months. 2 hours a month. It would take 4 months. Yeah. Lauren. I Lumberjack. I watch your content all the time. Really enjoy your channel. Me too. I have a feeling, so I'm going to call this now, before the end of 2022. By the end of 2023, the Lumberjacks channel will be larger than mine. I'm happy for that. That's how I see it happening. I think, Matt, you have, it's not that you have a bigger portfolio, more experience there. It's you're doing things like the product reviews. I can't do that. I don't care. I don't want to know that kind of stuff. Yeah, you have things to share that I just can't. So I look forward to growing with you, but I expect you to pass me up. Tom, are you able to talk portfolio loans or creating them with a bank? So I thought about educating myself on portfolio loans, so I'm not really able to talk on them. My goal was to get to 10 mortgages in my name. And then after 10, either start looking at DSCR, asset-based, or maybe a portfolio loan to wrap up some of those loans to free up some of the 10 in my name so I can get the best interest rates and best loan options. I didn't count on how big the freaking income snowball is. I got to 6 mortgages with 7 properties. And this year, I am going to make more from rental properties than at my best year being the president of a truck driving school with 5 campuses. Like, I don't know. I don't want that many properties. I'm like, money's great, but yeah. So that was when I was going to get to portfolio lending. I know Matt has done a ton of that and done, so here's a huge difference between me and Matt. Matt has a great relationship with his lender. Michael Zuber has a great relationship with his lender, so much so that the banks have reached out to them and said, hey, would you like this property? Like, this person's losing it, but you're the type of person, if that's how good their relationships are. I don't want to know my lenders. I want my lenders to kind of not like me because they know I follow through, so they want to work with me, but I lender shop. I'm going to take their offer in writing and show it to at least 3 other lenders, and I'm going to let everybody see what each of them is offering, and then I'm going to go with the best because I still had 10 or less mortgages in my name. So what mattered to me was rate and terms. I wanted the best rate and terms. I did one time change lenders because the other one had the exact same rate, but their buy down the rate, they gave me a 50% break on buying the rate down. That was enough to make me switch sides. Not the best way to build a long relationship with a lender. So if you're looking at having 30, 40, 50 properties and you want that lender to want to lend to you when it comes to portfolio time, listen to Matt and Mike when it comes to that aspect of investing. And for me, like I said, I kind of want them to not like me. I give them referrals. They love me because I know that they do good work. They're responsive. They've never lied to me. The lenders that I work with there are some I will not work with. A local credit union, for example, that gave me a loan product I took to somebody else. They pointed out a couple of flaws and I took it back to them and they said, oh yeah, we knew those were in there. We didn't think you'd catch it. They literally said, we didn't think you'd catch it. Yeah. Lumberjack, thank you. And Tom, I appreciate that super chat again. And it's not that I wouldn't partner with you. It's that I wouldn't partner with anybody. It's like, no, that's too much of an overshare. Okay. Isaac, howdy. Howdy, Dion. Thank you for all your great content. I am going to be renting out my primary. I have a pool and will be including pool service as part of the rent. Your thoughts on properties with pools? This is very area specific. If you ask somebody in Washington, what do you think of people with pools? Since pools are kind of rare, they're going to say, oh, it's a huge insurance problem. Then look at Arizona and you think, well, if you don't have a pool, you're the minority almost. Insurance is aware it's a rental. Make sure everything there is done right. Probably talk to investors who have pools to see if there's anything else that they've done. Make sure that you have placarding that's required, everything that needs to be in a lease for that. I know that there's some people, I've seen people make comments of, I would never own a property with a pool. I would absolutely own a property with a pool, especially if I was doing short-term rentals or mid-term rentals. That is going to increase demand. I would just make sure insurance is in place, the right type of insurance. It's kind of like some people will say, well, I would never let a tenant have a trampoline. Well, if your insurance company knows you have a trampoline and you're paying a trampoline premium, who cares, right? If your insurance says no to a trampoline, now I would say no to a trampoline. I would absolutely own a rental with a pool. I'd have insurance in place. I don't know. I'd find out what happens locally to whether what premium would match, because remember, your expenses and your amenities don't really set your rents. Area average rents set rents. So houses without a pool, what do they rent for in your area? Houses with a pool, what do they rent for? There might be some areas where there's no difference, or the ones with a pool rent for less. You just have to know your area. Took your view. Howdy, took a shot, probably butchered it. How big a difference is a credit score of 740 versus 800 for a loan? So the generic answer as an investor is going to say 0. 740 to 800, everything above 740, you get the best interest rates, right? But here's where the difference is. I'm going to open up Credit Karma and show you that this is why I cannot. So it's the app right here, Credit Karma. This is why I can't give credit card advice, okay? This is not a credit repair channel. So as it's loading, I have barely touched the 800 score myself, right? So if I had like an 840 or 8 whatever, I'd teach people how to do it. I can't. I'm barely touching that 800 too, but here's why I want my score around there, and I fight to keep it at least that high. That's the score that we see. There's like the 3, the 6, the new 10 that they're coming out. There's changes to how credit scores are done constantly. So the lender might see 50 points less than what you expect your credit score to be. So if my score is like that, I'm always going to have lenders see at least a 740. At least that's how my brain processes it. Because I've seen lenders get significant, like 20, 30 points less than me when they say, here's what your actual credit score is that we're going to use for this loan. So when you're looking at Credit Karma and the stuff that we have easy access to, make sure you're trying to get it as high as possible. Don't get to 740 and think, okay, I'm a winner. I'm there. I'm done. Now I can go and mess up my credit. And I don't know much about credit. This is what I do. First, I automate everything so that I try to have never a late payment ever, because those can stand your credit for 7 years. Second, there's 10% or less credit utilization. Anything above 10%, this credit utilization represents 30% of your score under the current metric. That could be changing with the new 10, where they're trying to change credit scores to make it easier to lend, which worked out great in 2007. If you have a credit card that has a $10,000 limit and every month you spend $2,000 and pay it off, but you never carry a balance, but you're using $22,000, which is 20%, you're going over the 10% credit utilization, so your score is going to go down a bit. So if you call your credit company and you say, hey, would you please raise my credit limit to 20,000? I've been with you for 4 years. This is my score. I've never had a late payment. This is whatever. If they can get it up to 20 and you don't change your spending, you only go up to 2,000 a month in spending and you keep paying it off exactly the same, you are now at 10% or less credit utilization, adding a benefit to up to 30% of your score metric there. So is there a difference between 740 and 800? No, but if your score is 740, the lender might see significantly less than that. So try to get it as much higher than that as possible. I wouldn't be waiting for a loan until my credit got, if I had a 680 credit score and I'd be trying to do a house hack, I'd be working to get my score up above 740 as far as I could, but because you'll get better rates and better options, but that doesn't mean I would delay it. Non-appreciable difference. Lumberjack, thank you. 2 words, took me 3 minutes. Miss Independent, since you live next door to your tenants, how are you dealing with boundaries, maintenance requests, complaints, etc.? Okay, it's a 4-plex. I live here. Unit 2, since this year, so beginning of this year, I saw them when I had a well issue and there was no water for about 5 hours. So we talked binder strategy. They asked for a rent increase. Did I see them anymore this year? Other than that, I think I saw them the day they bought a new car. They bought a new car in April. So I've seen them twice. That's unit that's next to me because I'm in unit 1. They're in unit 2. Unit 3, he's in the military. He's gone all the time. Saw him on the day of the well. I've not seen him anymore the rest of the year, which sucks because he's got a really cool dog and I get to goof off with the dog whenever he is around. And then unit 4, every now and then has a banking issue and pays in cash. So I see him once in a while. Maintenance requests. One maintenance request for unit 2 was under the threshold and went to the handyman. So I got a bill a week later. I never see him. It's one of the reasons why I like garages and side-by-side units is because the odds, unless you have the same work schedule of seeing each other, is leaving or getting home at the same time. Has anyone other than the guy who pays in cash every now and then knocked on the door? No. Yeah, it's a valid concern to think, I'm going to be living next to my tenants. They're going to know I'm the owner. But I think it's just as easy to send a text if you're on the other side of town as if you're right next door. It's probably less likely because I interacted with my other tenants more than the ones at the place that I'm at. Have the same maintenance thing. The first time they deal with a handyman, make sure you're present. Second time, if they have developed a good relationship, then this is the person you can call or text. That's a great question. Sebastian, oh no, my question made you drink. Sorry about that. No. Access and availability made me drink. Thank you for the answer, Lumberjack Landlord. Thank you. Duchess. Hi, Dion. What do you think of renting out by the room? I do it now? So would you do it if the net rental income would be significantly higher? If yes, how much more would justify renting out rooms in a single family house? So I kind of rent by the room. I live in a 4-plex and I rent out the room in the other part of this same unit. So I'm renting a room out in this. So it's technically renting by the room. They don't pay what the full rent would be for the place. Be 18 and they're paying 1,000. So it's not quite half. Rent by the room rent rates are set almost the same as renting a unit rent rates are. What is the area average? So go on the rent by the room rental sites. I don't have them memorized because I don't use them because it's not my metric. I would also watch Todd Baldwin. Last week, somebody asked me a question and I was going to answer with Todd Baldwin and couldn't remember his name, which is weird because we live really close to each other. He's been on my channel. We've talked a lot. He rents by the room, makes significantly more money than I do, but has a system for running it that way. And for the first 12 years of my investing, I was investing while working full time. And for the first several years of my investing, I was also raising 3 kids. So I didn't want to rent by the room. I wanted as hands off as possible. But now that I'm not working and it's more time freedom, it's possible to happen in the future. I do have some units that are rented out to roommates. So it's kind of by the room, but I have a lease where each one is on the lease for the full amount. So if one doesn't pay, they are all responsible. The difference being if you're going to rent by the room, you have a lease for that unit, for that room that defines their area that they're renting. How much more would justify renting out rooms in a single family house? Well, in our area, a 2-bedroom will rent for, in some of my units, a 2-bedroom will rent for $2,000, $1,800 to $2,000, and some will rent for $1,500. Like that depends on the neighborhood that they're in, right? Area average rent, set your rents. They'll probably rent for a little more, but I go a little under rents. Single bedroom units by themselves, like the unit by itself will rent for $1,300 to $1,500. You'll rent for $1,000 to $1,300 for a single room in my area. So you have to figure out what is the normal for your area. Do the research on your area. So if it's a 3-bedroom place and you could rent it out for $2,400, but you can rent each room out for $1,000, is $600 a month worth you having 3 separate tenants, having to deal with their interactive personalities and the different lease renewal times? Like, how much time freedom do you have to manage that? Is that amount worth it? And that's just a off the top of my head, a number comparison to kind of my area on a metric that I don't usually use. So that's how I would look at it. What would the unit rent for by itself? How much could I get each room to rent for? How is that amount of money that it is more than by the unit worth the extra work? Remember the real estate X factor. Dividend Dave still can't be a member. That is so weird. You've done Super Chat, so it's not that you're not linked to a Gmail account. Have you tried logging on to YouTube on a different device to see if it's there? Because I know that is an issue, which sucks. Is there a members only playlist? Currently, there is only a members only video because we did one Friday. It will be a playlist once there's more than one video, but yes. And Monica, so I'm sorry, but when you open up the YouTube app, on it at the bottom, it should say join when you're looking at my channel. And for, it seems about 50% of the people, it's just not there. So I don't know how to deal with that because I want to go, here's the stuff. So the way YouTube works is if you make a video and people click on it, you get what's called a click-through rate. So if it shows it to 100 people, if 10 people click on it, you have a 10% click-through rate, right? So a good YouTube channel gets 5 to 10% click-through rate. And I'm in there somewhere. So I don't know if I'm a good YouTube channel, but I'm trying, right? And so I'm trying to grow to get this content to more people. Then you have view duration. The longer somebody watches your video, like All Nighter Hider earlier said, hey, I'm working, but I'm gonna leave this on for the algorithm. That, as a person who understands, the algorithm knows the longer somebody watches a video, the more likely other people are to like that content. So it starts sharing it with more people. More people just can't see this channel until the algorithm says, oh, people want to see this. That's why Super Chats help. That's why watching it long time helps. And then there's also continued view, like when you end a video and you start another one. So that's why sometimes a content creator will, if you really enjoyed this video, please click on this video here because it's going to be the next secret to whatever reason, right? Now, so I'll even do that at some of the end of the videos. Like, this is the video that will help you get to financial freedom, because if you go to another video, it's more likely to share with more people, right? So there's a reason for that. And so the members only are people who watch the content and probably come to the live streams and have joined the They've literally said, hey, I'm gonna a couple bucks a month. I'm actually going to give this content creator some money monthly, right? To be a member. The algorithm goes, okay, so that's good, right? But now you can make content who really bought in. So this is a live stream, right? There could be somebody on here who's never seen me before going, wow, this guy looks kind of weird. He's bald with a beard and he's wearing a shirt from Office Space and he's got a Forgotten Realms map behind him. Like this is just weird, but it's real estate, right? And it's their first time to the channel. Do you think they're going to enjoy me opening up an email and saying, I'm looking at a property. This is from my real estate agent. Here's why I'm thinking this is what I'm going to do a deeper dive on. This is the area I wouldn't invest in. This is an aspect of this type of property that I really like and want for my tenant. They're going to go, this is stupid. This is just some guy looking at his emails. Why would I ever click on this channel again? But if you're a member, and I'm here saying my members live streams on Fridays is going to be me giving you an actual real life experience of, as an investor, here's stream of consciousness thought, what I look in my emails. So I don't want to do those videos on the channel because every time somebody clicks on a video and clicks out, YouTube goes, oh, they don't like it. Less likely to share the content with more people. That would get that kind of response. So I want to share that information with everybody, especially since we're having the trouble where you can't become a member, but I don't want to kill the channel, right? Blah. Corby, howdy. You mean bah humbug? It's too early. Miss Independent. And you asked about that. My chat moved. Door Loop, Matt says, is the platform that he's using. I love it when I lose my spot. There we go. Miss Independent, how do I join the membership? Yep, same question. So hello, howdy, Bill. Cody, I love that you just used binder as a verb. Well, technically, that's a binder. I binder them. It should be a verb. Sebastian, do you know any investors from outside the US that invest in the US? Would love if you invited one. That's what I'm trying to do. Long shot, I know. I've been on the channel, A Canadian Investing in the United States. So that's a YouTube channel. I went on, I shared the binder strategy because if you're in Canada and you're investing in the United States where the binder strategy can be used, I think it's an effective strategy. So a Canadian investing in the United States, that's probably a good channel for you to check out. Lauren, so many duplexes in our area, Greater Tacoma, don't have dishwashers. Should I install them or leave as is? That's a good question because I always want a washer dryer hookup. And I'm trying to think, do I have any units without dishwashers? And if I didn't, would I add it? If there was space, I would add it. It's not that hard to plumb those in. That's not like adding a washer dryer because that's more electric, that's a whole bunch of stuff. Whereas a dishwasher is a lot easier to install, to have installed. I would probably add it. Although I don't know, I would. So if you bought a duplex and there was a tenant in place who's already living there, who doesn't have a dishwasher, who moved in, who was expecting it to be that way, I don't know that I would add one while they were there. Although I did, and this is a really simple thing. I had a tenant that asked for something and it was going to cost, I don't know, like $400 to add it. So if the tenant wants it, and you can negotiate a new rent price with that new thing added, and it justifies the expense, sure. When that tenant moves out, I would definitely add it then. Oh, good. My brother found my mic. Hopefully, oh, and he just left for Texas too. Shoot. Guess I have to drive to Texas now to get my mic back. So yeah, Lauren, I would probably not do it while there was a tenant there, but as soon as it was vacant, I would add it. I look at washer and dryers and dishwashers kind of like, I think tenants, especially if they're under 50, expect those things in a unit or they're waiting for another place to open. If you have an older person that's set in their ways and they just, like my brother has a dishwasher and he's never used it. What is it? I think he stores soda in there or something. Some people are just weird. Family qualifies as weird. Rob, howdy. Yuri, howdy. Do you request an insurance handyman contractor even for a small job like countertop replacement or floor repair? Yes, I want to see insurance, especially workers' compensation insurance, no matter what. I don't care if they're coming to hang curtains. Like if they can get injured on my property, I want their insurance to be the one to kick in. And in writing. If it's going on the roof, that's the one time that I actually go to the state's website to verify that they have roofing as their type of insurance. But for handyman, yeah. And I've got a handyman who came to me one time and says, hey, look, he was a contractor and he's becoming a handyman. He says, I'm not going to be licensed anymore. I'm just going to be able to do handyman stuff. And he wasn't going to continue to be insured. And I said, hey, that's great. I can't use you as a handyman on my properties. It's too much risk for me without insurance. So he got workers' comp insurance and some other things, but he doesn't have his contractor's license anymore. So yes, I would. They could trip on the stairs walking to your door, and that's on your property. It's your liability. And if they're doing a job for you, they could have had their insurance in place, because one insurance claim, even a small amount, can double or triple your insurance rates and make it to where no one else will insure you for up to 5 years. So if you can get their insurance to handle it and not yours, that's worth it. Invest in rentals. And I see a couple people becoming members. I appreciate that. Dividend Dave, you figured it out. Awesome. Welcome to the club. We have cookies. Invest in rentals. I found my passion. Beautiful name. Hi, Dion. This is going to be my first downturn recession and have acquired 6 properties since 2019. Awesome. 14 units total, and each property cash flow is well over 9%. What can I expect in order to prepare? Thanks. So this is just my opinion, right? That no one, my crystal ball is way over there and it doesn't work. Except in marriage, it told me both were going to suck. So I like what Michael Zuber did. He bought all the way down. Every deal was better than the last because nobody knows how far down it's going to go. He was buying properties that were selling for $200,000 for $40,000. And competitors were saying they weren't buying because they were going to go lower. And then they started going up. So we don't know where we are in the cycle. I believe in a version of dollar cost averaging. So it's not to know what to expect, but what to do, in my opinion, is to hunt for great deals. Make sure that they're better than the last as we're on our way down. If we're on our way down, I still think year over year, right now, there's only 3 or 4 markets that are down year over year. Most of the markets over 300 are still up year over year, but they're down from the peak. We're going to hear scary things like year over year from last year to this year, we saw a 14% increase market wide, and we are now down 7. We're only 7% up year over year market wide as an overall average. So they're going to say 50% crash in home prices because we're up half as much as we were from the peak. We're still up 7% year over year. So I wouldn't say wait for the best deal, like saying I'm going to sit back for 6 months and not do anything, and then I'm going to jump in when the deals are better. Hunt every day for that deal. And when you buy something and then 6 months later, there's something that if the prices go down, you try to buy again. If the prices go up, you bought at the bottom. I think I'm very consistent on it's always a good day to buy a great deal. And that doesn't always apply for a first-time home buyer. Right? There's a difference between investor and home buyer. And it's definitely a difference between BRRRR and flipping. Interest rates can be 15% in 3 months. They can be 2% in 3 months. Like there are humans in charge of that. This is not some nature law that is, winter, it's going to be colder, summer, it's going to be warmer kind of thing, depending on the hemisphere that you live in. But interest rates are going to do whatever they are. Prices are going to do whatever they are. There are people that, and we talk about this so much on these channels, for 10 years, there's been a reason every year on why you shouldn't invest. Every single year, that silver tsunami. A whole bunch of baby boomers are going to retire. Home prices are above where they were in 2008. There's no way this is sustainable. And that was 2013. And look where they are now compared to then. Interest rates in 2018 went above 6%. That was unheard of and impossible because they hadn't been there since 2011. Now you have a pandemic, an eviction moratorium, like over and over and over, a reason not to buy. And what we have right now is high prices and high interest rates. It is never going to feel like a good time to buy real estate. A friend of mine, Keith, said that in the mastermind the other day, and it really resonated. It was great because it was like, every time I bought a property, it never felt like the right time. Everyone was telling me prices are going to come down. Rents might crash. Don't buy now. Careful where you get your information from. So that's what I would be doing, hunting for the best deal you can and buy the ones that will cash flow. Because in 5 or 10 years, any property you buy today, as long as you are diversifying your property types, keeping them, like me, more than 10 miles apart from each other, investing near several economic drivers. Don't invest in a place where there's one thing as a source of tenants. Have 3 or 4 sources of tenants, like a base, a port, a college, hospital, Boeing, Amazon, a large population, like all of these list of things. Have 3 or 4 of those so that one thing can go away or 2 things can go away and you still have tenants. In 5 or 10 years, anything you buy this year, you're going to look like a genius. Tom, pick you. Yuri, do you expect mortgage rates to go down next fall? So the best way to answer that is I don't expect, and I don't know that I hope for them to come down, because anytime they come down, so here's a huge difference. When interest rates go up, a lot of content creators say home values go down, and that's actually wrong. Buying power goes down. So people get priced out, so the number of deals goes down, the less people will sell. If interest rates go down, prices will go up, and there will be more sellers, which makes the supply and demand get kind of skewed. So interest rates coming down basically forces prices up because of competition. Interest rates going up doesn't force prices down, it forces transactions down. So I don't know that I hope that rates are down, because there's a lot of people saying, well, if rates come down, I'm going to buy. Well, then prices are going to be up. And they say, well, I'd rather pay more for the house because then I don't know, it's the other way. I'd rather pay less for the house and more on rate so I can refinance. Well, then they should be buying today. And my friend that says that is not buying today. So I have a plan. Here's my answer on what I expect. I have an idea. If interest rates keep going up, here's what I'm going to do. And if interest rates come down, and I'm watching them, if they ever come down enough to refinance to get a good enough, better rate on existing mortgages, I would do that with fixed rate debt. I did that in 2020. Refinanced about half my portfolio to 3 and 3.1% interest from 6, like 5 and 6% mortgages. So it's a great increase, right? So I'm watching if they ever get low enough to do that. But I don't sit back and go, I believe rates are going to come down, so I'm going to wait until that happens and then buy then. Hoosier, hello, I am 22 years old and I just started learning about house hacking a year ago, and your content helps a lot. Awesome. I was curious, why would you recommend a 740 credit score for loans? Great question. So when you go to get your loan, you're going to be told, based on your income, you can borrow this much money. Based on your work history, we can or can't calculate in your overtime. We can, and they don't want you to work at the same job for at least 2 years, but a lot of times lenders will want you to have worked in the same industry for 2 years. So these are things that they're going to look at. They're going to look at your credit score, and you're going to see things like, with an FHA loan, you can start buying a house with a 500 and something credit score that goes up and down. And your debt to income ratio needs to be sometimes up to 48 or 50% or less, right? So they'll have these numbers they throw around. The better you fit the metric, so the lower debt to income, the higher the credit score, the better interest rate and costs that can be associated with your loan that you're going to be allowed to do. So if you get a 740 or higher credit score, the closer you can get to the credit score that your lender's going to see, that's closer or passing 740, will get the best interest rate. So a 740 or an 840 basically gets you the same interest rate. But a 740 and a 700, the 740 gets the better interest rate. The 700 gets a worse interest rate. See, so that's why 740 is kind of that target number that you want to beat, so that the lender sees as close to that as possible. But there's a whole bunch of things factored into the type of loan that you're going to get, what your interest rate is going to be, how much it costs to buy down your points, and which means you can actually pay extra money, usually like a percent of the loan, like $400,000 loan, you give them $4,000, they'll take a percent off of your rate. Probably butchered the math on that, but that's how my brain processes it. So the more money you pay, the lower your rate will be. So there's a math equation there on, if you plan on selling your house in 2 years, it doesn't make sense to buy down the rate. You're not going to benefit that much by that lower rate. But if you plan on keeping a house 7 or 10 or forever years, then buying down the rate has made sense. I've done it every time. I don't know if I did it on my house that I bought before I was an investor, because I don't remember. I don't even remember how the loan worked at that point. Yuri, do you think investing in gold is a good idea? So I don't consider buying gold investing, as far as gold is an investment, a store of money. So you put your money there. I don't think it ever actually goes up in value. I think gold is always worth the same amount of value, but the dollar loses value. So it takes more money, more dollars to buy it. So it seems like it's going up in value. But the amount of time, energy, and effort it took to get the $200 to buy an ounce of gold in 1984 that it takes to do the $1,700 ounce of gold in 2022, I don't know what current spot is, but would take the same amount of money, buying power to do it. Here's where I do have a little bit of gold. When the zombie apocalypse happens, you don't need all of the guns. You just need one gun with enough ammunition to get to the person who actually got prepared. But in the event of currency not being able to work, the power grid's going down, money doesn't work, you can't go to ATMs, you can't, whatever case we have there for a period of time, Mount Rainier goes off, all the power's out for 3 weeks, whatever. It would be really hard to do anything with ounces of gold. But I have a few ounces of 10th ounce coins. They're about the size, they look like a dime. When you look at them, if you couldn't tell the color, it looks like a dime. So a couple of ounces like that, knowing that spot value is about $180 per ounce, per 10th ounce like that. So they're actually worth a little more in that shape than they are because they're refined or whatever their thing is. It's more of a sleep well at night, knowing that I'd be able to get the necessities with a little bit of the gold that I have. I'm not a prepper. I don't have like a room full of food. Like I said, you have just enough guns and ammunition to get to the person who actually got prepared and take their stuff. That's how the world works. And I got depressing really quick. But yeah, so I don't look at it as an investment. I think having a certain net worth, if your net worth is less than $100,000, I don't know that you should have any gold. If your net worth is in the millions, I think you can have like 1% of your net worth, maybe 2% in something like metals like that. And that's my opinion. I know that people that follow Rich Dad Poor Dad see, it as a very different investing thing than me, but that's how I look at it. I also have a very skewed opinion of investing. That's why we always say this is not advice. This is what we do. I don't own any stocks. I don't own any crypto. Like Michael Zuber, I might one day buy some crypto to have like 1% of the net worth in it, just to say like that's money I can lose and don't care. But gold is kind of that way for me. As your net worth grows, put a little bit in there for stability, for emergency, but not as a way to grow money. For me, financial freedom comes from my money working for me. I could have $1 million in gold and eventually I'd be out if I started trying to live on that, selling it off, right? With $0 invested in real estate, because I invested out of my pocket over 10 years about $320,000, maybe $300,000 of cash flow from the rentals also, so about $620,000 invested. But that 300 wasn't mine, it was from the rentals, and the 320,000 I've gotten back in cash flow. So now I make 6 figures in cash flow with none of my own money in it, and that would not happen with gold. I don't know that that would have happened with stocks either. Tom, I'm glad we can hear from somebody in the Midwest on here now. Yuri, do you recommend Rentometer? Good question. You got some great questions tonight too. I appreciate that. And I see Poplar Holdings. Thank you for becoming a member. I appreciate that. I will see you Fridays. And if you can't make the live on Fridays, don't worry. The members playlist will stay up. Like those videos will stay up just like the public ones do. But like I said, I'm not doing content where I'm creating videos and trying to do this. I'm saying initially right now, what I'm doing is sharing. This is how I look for my deals. But Rentometer, I used it for several years. And at one point I thought, I'm going to reach out to them and be an affiliate and say, you can get a discount if you use my code, like you can with Hemline. If you want a 20% discount on your first year with Hemline, you can put in the code Dion and you'll get that discount. But I don't like Rentometer, and I only want to recommend things that I like. So from 2013 to 2018, or whenever I started using them, I don't think it was all the way in 13. It was probably closer to 17, 18. They were pretty accurate. Rents were going up so slow that historical data was accurate. Small increases we went, but in 2020, 21, rents went up 30, 40% in most markets. It definitely went up that much in my market. They're still off by 30%. And the other day I went to try to use it. And a couple of months ago, I went from the 12-month metric to the 3-month metric, and they were still off. And I went there the other day, and that's not even an option now. So no, I do not recommend Rentometer. I have a video on my channel, how to set rents in a hot market. That's what I would use to figure out what rents are. And it's by basically trying to rent a place yourself without actually contacting the landlords. Go to apartments.com, Craigslist, Zillow, Trulia, Facebook Marketplace, like you were trying to rent a place, and write down the date you looked at the properties, what they were, how many rooms they had, and what they were renting it for, and then watch for a couple of weeks. Just because you see a property listed at an amount doesn't mean that's the amount. It might be gone in an hour, which might tell you they were a bit low. Or it might sit there for 3 weeks, which tells you they're a bit high, because rental properties are a lot more fluctuating than real estate properties are when you go to sell. When you go to sell, an agent should kind of be educating a seller, unless the seller sells a bunch. They're new to selling. The agent should say, here's the comps. Here's what I think we can get. Maybe we list low, try to create a buying frenzy. Maybe we list high and see if you can get it. But there's not as much flex there. There's literally going to be an appraiser coming out to say to the lender, it's worth the amount you're lending on it, or an investor is going to be actually putting their cash on the line for a price. So like that's, it's kind of sticky. Rents, people will go, okay, the rents in my area are 2,000. I'm going to list this one for 3,000 because it ain't going to hurt me for 2 weeks to have it sit. And then they're not going to rent it until it gets back down to 2,000, but they're going to try and they're going to slowly bring it down. That doesn't mean rents are coming down. It means that person way overshot. Before we see rents coming down, there's a step to that. When across the market where everybody goes, oh, I'm seeing rents coming down in my area because somebody listed it high and then brought it down. Before you'll see a renewal at a lower rate, when you see actual rent decreases, which since we've started tracking the data, we've never seen market wide. We've seen it in small pockets where one economic driver moves away and kills an area, where the dot-com crash hit Silicon Valley harder than everywhere else. But what you'll see is concessions. To get tenants, instead of lowering rents, the step before we see a market-wide rent decrease, you will see month free, free moving truck, free half-month rent. After that goes on for a while, then rents would come down, but that's the step before rents decrease. So that's what I would do instead of using Rentometer. Tiffany, you will get a better interest rate if your credit score is higher. So yes, the higher the credit score, the lower the debt to income ratio, the more stable your income, the higher income, the better your lending options will be. So very true. CJ, here for the hour convo. Awesome. So I should do that. Let me grab my magic dice. And I have no idea which one I'm going to need. There is 50 people on here. So Matt, don't leave a comment. This is not for you. I'm going to put my email in the chat right here so I know when to do it. So it will be comments after that I put my email in. I have, depending on how many comments, there's a 50 of us. So I have a 20-sided dice. We don't need the 100-sided dice, although that would be easier than the 60-sided dice. But I have the 62 if we need. We'll see how many comments come. So right now, just because I like people to understand this, if you want a 1-hour phone call with me and you want me to look at your investing stuff, so don't take away the ability for somebody who wants that to just have a conversation if you just want to hang out and talk. I want to say what I would do if I was in your situation. So not advice, but what I would do. Put your freedom number in the chat if you want that call, and then I will use one of the dice, depending on how many we have, and figure out who's going to get that. So I'm going to keep going, but by putting your freedom number in the chat, then I will choose who wants the 1-hour phone call. And I'm not doing a require in the future. I will do a members requirement too. That way it's helping the people that are actually supporting the channel and don't hate my guts. So your freedom number in the chat, and then I will use the dice to pick who gets the 1-hour phone call. For this, we will connect through email and then phone call. Brian, howdy. How do you structure your contracts with contractors? Can you point me out to a resource or a video you've done? So I haven't done a video on that. That's a good one. I think to do that, to know where my weakness is, I would collaborate with Matt, the Lumberjack Landlord. So guess what we're doing later this week, Matt? An arborist will have a specific type of contract. Our family had them. And it basically, depending on your state laws, you want to get as much in writing as you can, because without additional in writing communication, sometimes contractors, mechanics, things like that, are not allowed to increase the cost of a project by more than 10% without additional communication. So sometimes they can come back and go, hey, the materials cost more, so it's going to be this much, up to 10% of the value of the deal. And so that in some places is protected as allowable by the contractor. Beyond that, it takes a notification. Like, we're not going to be able to do it because of this expense. If you want to add this expense, then we can do it. I don't have an example because I've never done a rehab. I'm super lazy. I buy rent ready or already occupied properties. I have helped friends do rehabs recently. Why? I have no idea. So expect a video from me and Matt on that coming soon, because I will pick his brain on how he would do that. And I think that was a great, because he does the contract, not the contractor, the product review videos. But he does a lot of more gut rehabs than I do, like full kitchen remodels and do everything because he wants it. He just, he takes a Class C property, makes it Class B, and then gets better rents. I take Class C properties, make them safe, clean, and functional, and get Class C rents. That's a good question, Brian. Thank you. Let me write that down. Lumberjack, any score over 700 doesn't improve rates with most lenders. True, doesn't. Emily, howdy. Where do you recommend finding a real estate agent? Would you go to Zillow or Redfin? No. And I'm not going to answer the rest of the question too, though, but I would not go to Redfin or Zillow. And when setting up an auto search with an agent, do you have to mention you only want properties from the MLS? Good question. Don't know that I've heard it worded that way before, Emily. So to find a real estate agent, a realtor in your area, local REI groups are great sources for that. Try to get an introduction, not while the person's in the room. What you'll find at a lot of real estate meetups is everybody wants to be personable and well-liked. So if there's a realtor sitting at the table who sucks, no one's going to say that. They're going to say, oh, Timmy over here is an agent. You should talk to them. Talk to people one-on-one. What agents do you recommend? Try not to make it a group setting because you never know the interconnected relationships of people that they need to talk for. Kind of like I go to the Tacoma FI meetup group, right? If I was there, I have a friend, Stephan, who is an agent who works in the brokerage where my agent works. If somebody said, do you know an agent in the area? I would point at Stephan and go, this is an agent. He actually works in the office where my agent works. That's not me saying he's good or bad. Stephan's great. I would totally work with him, except the agent that I work with, that I have a really good relationship with, is in his office too. So I don't want to create any competition between them in-house. I do work with agents that don't work together, and they all know about each other. So my agent that works with Stephan in their office knows that I have other agents, knows that I have multiple auto searches set up. I have them coming to different emails. And I don't tell them I only want deals from the MLS. I say all of my deals are from the MLS. I've used traditional lending, so conventional loans on all my properties. I haven't done creative financing or all this other kind of stuff. I'm open to it. If you found a deal off market, I would totally listen. Every wholesaler I've talked to thinks I'm stupid, and they show me properties that are so highly priced that they're just embarrassed they can't put it on the MLS. So I haven't bought from a wholesaler yet. I'm sure there's good deals out there that go through those, so I've just not seen them. The one thing that's important to me is that my agents know two things. If they send me a deal and it's one I want to pursue, they're going to get the money from it. They're going to get the commission, and I'm not going to try to lower their commission. I want them to make every penny possible. I want that agent motivated to work with me in the future. So the dumbest thing is two things you can do that are kind of unintelligent. One, try to talk their commission down. And two, talk to an agent before you've talked to a lender. Do these two things and your agents will love you. Talk to a lender before you talk to an agent so you know what your options are before they waste their time showing you things or setting up your auto search for things that will waste both of your times. And second, be transparent. Let them know. An agent should protect their time if you're a home buyer and you're going to have them take you to show you 10 or 15 or 20 houses before you start making offers. They're going to waste a bunch of time on you that isn't wasted if you close a deal. If you don't spend any money with them, they don't get any money. So why would they do that, right? They're not just doing this because they're nice people. They are nice people, but they're doing this because they want to make money. So if you're a home buyer that's going to take a bunch of agent's time, you should sign an exclusivity agreement where you're only going to buy a house through them for the period of time that they're spending so much time with you. As an investor, I don't ever do that. They are not going to show me a property until I make an offer and have an offer accepted. And even then, that doesn't even take their time. They set up the auto search, they make the offer. Here's the chronology on a deal that almost happened last week. I found a deal on the MLS, and it basically would have been a BRRRR project, my first one. I don't recommend as a starting out procedure. So this don't compare year 10 or now year 12 to year 1. This would be my money, not hard money. So refinancing wouldn't matter. I had the money for the rehab, my money again, not hard money, so not the refinance. But I could do the BRRRR method, make the offer, gets accepted. I said, cool, let me go look at the place because I have an inspection clause. My agent was busy, so he had an office worker go and meet me there. And she was super nice. She was another agent from his office. She met me there. She took me around, showed me what she could from the place. It was more work than a BRRRR for me would have worked. It had all kinds of issues that I didn't want to deal with, connecting to city sewer, water level problems on the property. The ADU looked inhabited, even though it was supposed to be vacant. So like all these things that just piled on and made it not a deal I wanted. So I backed out. If an agent took you to 10 or 20 places and you made offers and then you backed out, I'd be frustrated if I was that agent. But my agent set up an auto search probably 3 years ago, has once or twice adjusted the amount of that BRRRR search for me, made an offer, which was done through DocuSign, probably took him 15 minutes to get it all set up right, to make sure everything was, every T was crossed and all that stuff. And then I back out and he's like, yep, no worries, on to the next one, because he knows it's not a waste of time because I'm going to follow through on deals that make sense to me. Yeah, so local REIs get one-on-one reviews from other investors. And your deals don't have to be from the MLS, but you can say, look, I only want to see. And I actually say, I won't. So my criteria from them is from the MLS, but I say no HOAs, no short sales, no foreclosures. These are my don't wants. They're as important to me as my wants. Bill O'Connell, thumbs up. Matt says, door loop, far more extensive financial information. That's right, because you did try Hemlane. So if you have a massive portfolio, door loop's probably the better way to go. Sebastian, Lumberjack, you demand. Agreed. Levi, what are the expenses you've noticed come in waves? Tomorrow marks 1 full year living in my first house hack, and I'm 3 times expected expenses. 90% of that is appliance. So what expenses? So expenses do tend to come in waves, and I think it's a frustration level. Like you'll have 2 or 3 months go by with nothing, and then all of a sudden, everything happens in the same 2 days. And usually when everything's going on in your life too. Appliances. So you're your first year into your first house hack. So that means that these might be appliances that were in there from before you purchased. So that's kind of included in your cost to acquire, which affects your ROI not so much. So in 5 years, in 3 years, as you're setting aside 10% of gross rents, and maybe you've moved out of this house hack and it's all rented out now and making money, money is being set aside into that reserve account to take care of these expenses. So the tenant is paying for expenses. In that first year, while you're building up your reserves and the tenant you haven't taken that percentage for repairs and CapEx and vacancy that you would set aside and to build up that account, feels like you're paying for it. That's the only year it feels like that. I don't know that anything specifically comes in waves. You will see, I think, more stuff get damaged in the winter than in the summer. You have temperature changes. Exterior lights will have more issues with bad temperature. Make sure so something I'm doing this week is I make sure I contact every tenant with a text saying, hey, can you text me an image of the faucet with the hose disconnected? I don't explain why. I don't say anything else. I just want them to do that. And then I'll say, because they have them stored in a certain place, do you remember the styrofoam thing? Can you send me a picture of that on there? If you live in a place like Siberia, where Matt lives, there's probably more things involved where you have to like air jet out certain, especially if it was a yard sprinkler system and things that you want to do certain times of the year. But yeah, more expenses in the winter as far as waves go than the other times of the year. Tom, does Hemline provide data kind of like the data Dana shares with Mike on his channel? So Dana recently has been sharing information from a study that she did. I don't know that much. So I think there's like an updated email that you get that has that survey information in it. I don't know. I talk with her once a month. She does videos on my channel. We had one come out Saturday. We have one coming out. The next one coming out is about rents going down. The first one that came out was why landlords quit. And the next one is rents coming down. Spoiler alert, they're not. So I don't know if it's shared because I haven't really dug into that, but I will check. Tom, Levi, I know over time it will even out, but we'll be watching closer on appliances in the future, looking for other spots to pay extra attention to as well. Yeah. So it will even out over time. And remember, you continue to set aside 10% of gross rents until you get a certain reserve. When I had 7 or less units, I kept $10,000 in an account for repairs and maintenance and emergencies like that, right? Once I got over 7, I raised it to 30,000 and I kept it there all the way up to 16 units. And then I retired. And once I retired, I raised that to 50,000. So there's $50,000 sitting in an account to take care of stuff like that. Anytime that would go down, 10% of 15%, because repairs, maintenance, and vacancy, 15% of gross rents, about $3,000 a month would go back to fill that account. And once that account is full, that extra money, that 15%, doesn't go to me to make life better. It goes to the investing fund to make the next purchase happen a little bit sooner, so that if that account goes down, I don't notice that money. It's not part of my lifestyle. It doesn't go away. It just, the investing happens at a little bit slower pace. Lumberjack, love working with me. 2023, we'll be zooming both to Bali. Yeah. I need to get that 130,000 ready to put into an account, because if you do that in Bali, they will give you a 5 or 10-year visa. Things you learn on Mike's channel. Paula, howdy. I love this channel too. Thank you. And I love his channel. I love Matt's channel. So thank you. CJ, still would love a day, 1 week, one-on-one onboarding a new product. So onboarding a new property or doing a tenant turn perspective from Matt as well too. Yep. That's something Matt should give away, but in his area. So for me, the call can happen wherever. Yuri just got 841 credit score. Nice. So even the lower one that the lender might see is going to be above the 740. So you'll get the best rates and stuff. Michael, howdy. Is this to invest in bank companies or some type of REIT? Did I miss another part of the question? Trying to make sure I'm not missing something there, Mike. I'm sorry. So my investing is buy and hold real estate. 2 times I've house hacked. The rest were all investment purchases. I don't do syndications, bank companies, and I don't do REITs. REITs are like stocks and real estate. I don't invest in any stocks. Mine is I'm actually against retirement accounts. So if you're new to my channel, I'm sorry that you jumped in the middle of a live stream that probably just looks confusing. And I don't want to derail the whole concept of answering questions here. But my quick ninja story, because I see Ninja vanish, howdy, is in less than 10 years, I think the average person can reach financial freedom and make work completely optional, even if you're not starting from the best position. That's what I did. I was a single parent with 3 kids. Making $17 an hour after getting laid off from a police department in 2008 because of the recession. Found out about a bunch of bad debt in my name I didn't know existed until the divorce, and realized I needed to take charge of my finances. And I didn't understand stocks, and I didn't really understand real estate. And I'm a good employee, but I'm not an entrepreneur. So I thought I would invest in real estate. Had some examples of people who did that. And in less than 10 years, I made work optional. So at 8 years, I was financially independent. I worked until 12 years of investing, and then I retired in July of this year, and will never work again in my life. And I'm trying to share with people how I did that. It wasn't easy, but it was really simple. Ninja Vanish, almost missed the live, but not today. Couldn't resist. And then my chat moved. Okay. But when my chat moves, it means there's things being said, which is great. Go back until there we go. Tom, hello, Matt. Aldair, howdy. Levi, how do you handle getting cash payments if you're out of town? I have roommates. One of my tenants asked to pay cash last minute once in a while, working on pushing the online pay instead, but it's taking time. So, right, it's hard to convert a tenant to any kind of online pay sometimes. Sometimes people are fine with it. Some older tenants, not so much. So a lot of banks will not let people deposit cash into your account. So they might need to go and get a cashier's check to do that if they don't have checks to deposit. In my case, there have been times, because I have one tenant who just every now and then for some reason pays in cash, and it's all 20s rolled up, covered in glitter. I don't understand it. he's not a stripper, because if he was, I don't know that anybody would go. Sorry, it's just not. I have to deconstruct my own segue. Hang on, where were we? So if you're not there and you want somebody to pay in cash, Levi, are you working? Could they put in an envelope and put it to the front desk of your company for somebody to hold for you? Yep. Other than that, so I do have one tenant who has interesting banking issues and can't use Venmo, PayPal, Cash App, Apple Pay, or any of those kind of things. Doesn't have a checking account. So she goes and gets money orders. And that's irritating, because that actually has to be taken to the bank, deposited, which I don't like. But three things. And saving myself a trip to the bank is the least important, but it is on the list. The first is make it easy on the tenant. The second is it leaves a paper trail. So the thing with cash is always making sure that it leaves a paper trail. Antonio, howdy. What do you think about Zillow as a lender? They offer a good rate, but I don't know if it is just a scam. I don't know if that platform would be a scam. I have not considered using Zillow as a lender, and I don't know anything about it, so I would be just making stuff up. I don't know if they do the lending or if they connect you to lenders that work through their platform. I don't know that I've ever met any of them. No, I met one of my lenders one time in person, but the rest have all been through emails and phones. Yeah. If you can verify it somehow, that would be a good question for who would I reach out to? I think the best thing to do is I should reach out to one of my lenders and see if they will give me anonymously a good description of the different services offered by Zillow compared to their company, because a competitor is one of the quickest ways to find out a flaw. And then I will contact Zillow and try to find out how can they defend that flaw. And that would be the quickest way, how I would figure out if that was a scam or not. Matthew, howdy. Would you use an agent to find someone to rent by the room? It depends on what the agent was charging and the relationship I had with the agent, because is there a guarantee that that person will pay rent? Because if the agent was going to get money for placing the tenant, and they're going to get paid whether they find you a good or bad tenant, the motivation might not be pure. But if at 6 months, they might have to give you the money back if that tenant doesn't work out. And maybe 3 months is a better thing. If somebody can make it 3 months, hardly anybody can predict past that. So yes, depending on my relationship with the agent and how the structure of that was done, it's too easy to find tenants. I posted on Cozy, then Apartments, and now I just used Hemlane, and I had over 30 applicants in less than a weekend. Like 12 filled out actual applications. I think 1 or 2 didn't qualify on my credit score thing, even after telling them don't get an application unless your credit score is this much. They thought I was kidding, I guess. So yes, I don't know that I would, but if I'm out of country and it was the easiest way, maybe. Laura, howdy. Dividend Dave, had you tried to join after the live chat? He did join tonight. I was having the same problem and then randomly went back to the video and the join showed up. Awesome. Eldon, howdy, from Fresno. Hope to meet you on the 12th. Hope to meet you too. So I'm probably going to be there on the 12th. And I think I'm going to come back on the 19th. I'm spending the week. I'm going to go down and see my brother. If I have to be in the state, I might as well go see family, right? But then I'll be back in the Fresno area the following Saturday. Maybe we can do like a local meetup kind of thing for before or after the Pace Morby event, which originally I was invited to talk to. And then when it got moved, I don't know if their venue picked up or whatever, but I'm not talking there. But I'm going to be in that area. So I'm flying back that night, I think. And so if people want to get together before or after that and have like breakfast or dinner or something, maybe we can put something together. Tom, if you ever click dislike on one of Dion's videos, they won't let you join as a member. You have to go back and click like on all his other videos first. You did not just make that up. That is factual. Thank you, Tom. I appreciate that. And I see that was where Tom and Poplar and Miss Independent, you found the thing. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Let me go and do the dice thing, and then I'll come back up to questions. So I'm going to leave this chat here on the computer. go to where I put in my thing. So Tom, you put pick me. Robert, pick me. So I'm going to pretend you guys put a freedom number because you can follow directions, which might be why we need to make the call. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm just going to roll. There's 27. So I'm going to use this and I'll divide it by 3 if it goes high. So I'll just do 1 to 20. I hear people in the house. The phone call is coming in the house. This might be loud. Thank you, Matt, for calling me. How many times did people put you're on mute? That sucks. And I'm sorry, I wrote down the name of the winner. I rolled a 30 divided in half with 15, which it was Angelica. Sorry about that. But I'm glad that a few people called me to let me know. So people need my number. So now, Angelica, since you won the roll, and it took everybody that long to call me to say, hey, you're still on mute, you doofus. After the phone call, Angelica will have my number and she can do it if I do that again in the future. Then Poplar. Wish I could edit live. That's great. What's cash flow in gold? I only bought silver and savings, but don't see how we buy retail and liquidate at wholesale rate make financial issues. It makes sense, right? Oliver, howdy Dion from Dallas, Texas. I'm glad you make your live stream tonight. Do you normally buy down the rate? In today's market interest rates, would you still buy down the rate or wait until rates drop? Thank you, everybody, who for calling me and instant messaging me, doing everything to get my attention to say, you have issues. What if interest rates never go down? What if they stay at 10% for a decade, right? I try not to use the crystal ball that's not working. Plan on the worst, hope for the best, right? Almost a Jack Reacher quote. So I buy down the rate because I plan on holding the properties long-term, don't plan on selling. I will benefit from a refinance if rates go down. So yes, there'll be a little bit of extra cost there, but we have short memories. We think because interest rates went down in the last couple of years, they're probably going to go down in the future again. Well, it took a pandemic to get them to go that low. It can happen again, but it might not. So no, I don't always buy down the rates. And then just in case I was muted, Angelica, congratulations on the win of the dice roll. I think that's the second time I've done that now. You figure I would learn. Daniel, howdy. This might be a question for an email. I will let you know in a second. Do you get a W-9 from each of your handymen? I could see them not wanting to give out their social security number or pay tax on just a few $1,000s. I do. One was a contractor though, so that's kind of a cheat because I already had it. Yes, and here is a trick, a tool. Anytime I'm getting a quote from a contractor or a handyman or anybody, I will say, how much is your price? Give me a quote. Get the quote. What's your cash price? And this is something Matt, the Lumberjack Landlords, does too. We actually talked about this morning. Sometimes a cash price, like at the CDL school, you think you're going to get a discount for cash. It's not so you don't file taxes. It's because now you don't pay a credit card fee. So there can be a significant discount if you're going to use cash. It's not always to avoid taxes. So if you ask a contractor or handyman, what is your cash fee? What is your amount? And you have their W-9, you're still going to file taxes on them like normal. It is not your responsibility to make sure that they file their taxes. You're going to do everything legal. So yes, I get a W-9, but I do ask if they have a cash price, and they might have a cash price because that means no credit card. I don't care what they do with their taxes. I'm going to file mine legally, because while prison is the ultimate house hack and a great form of retirement, it's not my plan. Daniel, also, where will your next scuba trip be? Supposedly was going to be here in Washington, but now my brother's taking off to Texas, and we usually dive together. So when he gets to Texas, he's going to be near Austin. I think it's like an hour and a half from the coast is where he's going to be, so it's not too far from there. Texas is great. You can go there and drive from Tuesday to Wednesday and still be in Texas. If there's scuba there, that'll probably be it. I was thinking Panama. I don't know how the scuba is there. Scuba was good in Colombia, but there was a lot of sharks. Not the ones I like either. Like you go to Thailand and you have what are they? Whale sharks or something? They're huge, but they're like a big cow, like 35 feet long, and they don't have big teeth things. They were fine. In Colombia, it was like you're gonna get murdered by the sharks. So I don't know about Panama. I'll have to find out. CJ, do any of your agents give you a hard time for wanting them to write a lowball? And by lowball, I mean the return I shoot for on all my properties, just like most, not willing to pay wish pricing. So they would, because my agents are educated that I want to be told when I'm making a mistake. I tell them, look, I'm ultimately marrying the property. I'm only dating you, which is sarcasm. If you watch Black Adam, you know that's actual sarcasm. I'm dating my agents, but I tell them, I want your advice, but I'm going to make the decision, right? If a property came out on the market today and I make a 30% lowball offer, they should tell me I'm being stupid. That's their job. If a property sat on the market 3 or 4 times the length of what that was normal. So if your market was 10 days on market was normal and now you're at 30 days, yes, it's a good time to make a lowball offer. And if they give you a hard time, then you need to educate that agent or move on. If it's 2 days in the market, I don't know that I'd make a huge discount at 6 days in the market, but when it gets to 10 or 15 or 20 days in the market, I'd start making it. So it depends on the time on the market when that lowball offer makes sense. If one was put up at a really stupid price and you think maybe that's a typo and everyone else is going to stay away from it, it never hurts to get an offer in, or reach out, have your agent reach out and ask some questions. So Tom, and then I thank you. This is for all the things where everybody said their numbers. Angelica, congratulations. And sorry for everybody for I'll have to check a couple of minutes of me talking for no reason whatsoever. And there was no chat here saying muted to roll the die and forgot to unmute. Yes. Awesome. Okay, so we will be wrapping up here in a few minutes. Stacks, just saying. There we go. Way to go, Angelica. Thank you. Justin, howdy. Do you consider a check as cash, or does it literally need to be stacks of Benjamins? Cash, when someone pays in cash, it's cash, paper money. A check is a form of payment that leaves a paper trail. That's the problem with cash is you give a receipt, tenant can dispute it. So get a signature on your receipt. They sign the receipt that they've paid you the cash. They should want the signature on the receipt saying that they've paid it. So you can't come back and say they never paid their rent. Yeah, just stacks. I agree. Laura, Panama has great scuba and great fishing for your brother. Awesome. Justin, if you're in Texas and want to see some unique diving, check out the Flower Gardens. It is basically a plateau 60 feet deep, 120 miles offshore. They're usually overnight trips. I'm going to write that down. The Flower Gardens. Sounds like something that either a porno film or a horror film would start out with. An overnight trip to the Flower Gardens out in the sheet. And make sure you know which one you're in before you commit to that. Cool. Thank you for the recommendation, Justin. I'll have to check that out. Todd, howdy. Yeah, I'm struggling with researching market rental rates. I can easily compile all the posted rental vacancies from a bazillion websites, but the delta between minimum and maximum is huge in my market. So which ones sit the longest? And when you say your market in Tacoma, there's the Tacoma greater area. You have places like Spanaway or Lakewood. So in Lakewood, the town where they have the stupid city thing that makes me not want to ever invest there again, you have mansions from in the 70s and 80s. There were actresses like Linda Evans that had like her compounds there. And then you have right outside Joint Base Lewis McChord, there's no nice way to say the war zone outside of there where you just don't want to go. The cops don't go alone, right next to each other. So it'd be really hard to comp those. So you kind of need to know. That's why Michael Zuber says, look, if you're investing in one market, great. If you're in two, maybe. But if you're in three or four, there's no way you can track the data on that. And because it's not just spreadsheets, it's local things that you might not know unless you really know the area, which is why you want boots on the ground. So track it for a few weeks and really look at why some things are higher and lower. Is it the area? Is it in some places like in Washington? Did you know sometimes a carport will get you more rent than a garage? And I said that weird. I don't know why. But a garage will rent sometimes for less than a carport, even though I always wanted a garage because more space equals more storage, which equals more stuff, less likely to move. But a carport will get more rent because people don't want to use their garage door to park their car. It's too much time when they're coming in, but they'll park in a carport in a state where it rains a lot to walk in the house. Tenant preference. So you have to really know the area. And maybe you just need to smallen down your area till it gets to a bandwidth that you can handle. Small and down. Grammar. I am disappointed in my grammar. Todd, is there a way to find actual contracted rental rates, what people are actually signing for? So that's where, if you're looking for historical data of what people actually signed their rents for, you can go to Rentometer because that uses historical data, but it is generally going to be lower. So you can use that as like a base and then go, okay, rents have probably come up since then. That's probably what I would do there. Michelle, howdy. When you do the binder, assuming you are signing a 1-year lease again, do you have them sign 60 days before the contract starts? Great question. Perfect wording. The answer is both. So I do the binder. And so if it's a renewal with a tenant and I'm using the binder again, or if it's 2 months into the purchase and I'm using the binder for the first time, I talk to the tenants. And if they've watched my content, they know that there's a reason to this. But if they haven't watched my content, even the ones where it's a renewal weren't expecting this. You have the conversation. Here are the area average rents. This is what the property value is now. So this is what my insurance and taxes are based on. Here's what rents are. If you had to move, this is what you'd pay. What do you think is fair? So you have the conversation. They kick back a number. Most times the number is more than you were expecting. Once in a while, it might be less. And you kind of say, well, yeah, that's still pretty far from what the area average is. And then it's a conversation, right? So it can adjust to where you want it. Once you pick the number, the tenant has mentally said, my increase is $350 a month. They have in their mind, next month, it's $350. Then I say, great. Okay, so we've agreed this is the new rental amount. This is November 1st. So December stays the same. January stays the same. February 1st, we're going to have this new rent, which is why if I was going to do the binder strategy, I would have done it October 27th, because then November would stay the same, December would stay the same, and then January would have been the increase. So I would have tried to do it before like the end of a month. The tenant thinks I've committed to this new increase, and then the landlord was super nice, and they just gave us like 90 days to mentally prepare for this. I actually use the term to give you a chance to mentally prepare for this shift in your budget. Let's do this. February 1st will be your new rent. In reality, you need to know your local laws. In Washington State, in order to give more than a 10% rent increase, you have to give 60-day notice. You only have to give 20-day notice if you're not renewing their lease and you're going to kick them out, but you have to give 60 days to give a rent increase. In Seattle, it's like 6 months. So I don't invest in Seattle. But I'm satisfying statute. I'm compliant with the laws. And the tenant is happy because I gave them a delay. I have never had to explain, well, the law requires that I give you 60-day notice because we've just verbally agreed to this this increase. They set the number, but I'm still going to be compliant with the law. So they sign it then. The lease says the rent for November or December is the same. The rent for January is the same. The rent starting February 1st is this amount. So there's literally the next 2 months are all typed into the lease that I bring with me. The third month where the increase would be is a blank spot where I'm going to handwrite in the lease, and they're going to initial the amount, and they're going to initial right next to it. So that was a great question, Michelle. Thank you. Miss Independent Todd, I had to get the leased units from my realtor to gauge actual rental prices. There you go. Todd, do you know what the rentometer data source is? How accurate would it be for a 70,000 populated city? So no, and it bases on how many people. I have no idea how they do it. I do know that it was fairly accurate until 2020 in my area, and since then it's fallen off. So each area is kind of local, and I wish there was like a magic button to say yes, it works or it doesn't work in your area. But you're going to have to kind of learn the area average, calling your property managers to say what is current rents. Sometimes they know, sometimes they don't. But look at all the rental options, get an average in your head, and go lower when you're running the numbers on the potential yield on a property you're looking at buying, so that you have a bigger pad, so more protection from the mistakes that we usually make. But it's one of those things, and it sucks. Here's the answer that everybody hates to hear. It takes time and repetition. The more you do it, the better you get at it. So I hope that helps everybody. Congratulations, Angelica. I look forward to email, and we will set up that phone call. I will do a 1-hour giveaway next week. And Matt, call me sooner if I don't unmute next time. Thanks for that. I want to thank everybody for hanging out. I have a video coming out later this week with Dana from Hemlane. And remember, if you want to try out Hemlane, you can use the code Dion, which is D-I-O-N, not D-E, and to get a code to get a 20% discount on your first year with them. And then I will have my members only live stream on Friday. And until my next video, thanks for coming to my Dion Talk.